Welcome to the first alphabet lesson in BibLingo. Throughout these 4 videos, we'll go over all the letters of the alphabet, their sounds, and we'll look at a few interesting things about the alphabet itself. So let's get started with a little history on the alphabet. All modern alphabets have the same source. They're all derived from hieroglyphics. The way the system originally worked was that hieroglyphics stood for a word. So for example, you can see on the first line what looks like the head of a bull. So this symbol would stand for the word bull in the relevant language. What happened was that instead of having the symbol stand for the word bull, people began to use the symbol for the first sound that that word made. In the original Semitic language that developed the alphabet, the word was alpum. And so you had the first sound, ah, which wasn't actually the vowel sound, but it's what's called a glottal stop, which you'll learn later on. So what happened was that instead of this symbol referring to the whole word, alpum, it began to refer to just the sound ah. So the same thing happened for the next symbol, which was a picture of a house, bait in Hebrew. And so this letter is called bet, and the sound it makes is b. As you can see in the chart, the hieroglyphics developed in shape and form over time, but the same basic idea remained the same, which means that if you know the name of the letter, you also know the sound that the letter makes. So you know that the word bet makes the b sound because it starts with the b sound. A letter like kaf makes the k sound, and you know this because kaf starts with k. So one thing to note before we get started is that the order that we're presenting the alphabet letters are not the order that they actually are in Hebrew. It doesn't really matter what order you learn them in, but we've chosen this particular order because we think it's helpful pedagogically to learn them this way. But of course, you should probably learn the order that they normally come in as well. And you can do this through all kinds of songs or videos that teach the order of the letters in the way that they normally are presented. So let's get into the alphabet. So the consonants in Hebrew are all written as the actual letters. And the vowels, as we'll see, are dots or dashes below and above the letters. There are some consonants that will sometimes act like vowels, but we'll get to these later on. So our first letter is what we've already seen, bet. So if we know that the name of the letter is bet, we know the sound it makes is b. Bet, though, is a special letter. It's what's called a begad kafat letter. Begad kafat letters are special because they can be pronounced in one of 2 ways, either as b or v. The way you can tell how to pronounce it is whether it has a dot in it. Bet with a dot is pronounced b or hard, and bet without a dot is pronounced v or soft. This dot is called a dagesh, and we'll learn more about this later on. One thing you should keep in mind is that we've transliterated each of these Hebrew letters into our alphabet, the English alphabet. Transliteration means to convert the Hebrew letters to the Latin or English alphabet. So this will help you to sound out the Hebrew words with letters that you already know. Next we have the letter yod. As I mentioned earlier, some letters are used as a vowel, and yod is one of them sometimes. The way you can tell whether a yod is pronounced is whether it has a vowel symbol below or above it. Next we have zayin, z, lamed, l sound, samech. Next we come to the letter mem. Mem is special because it actually has 2 ways of being represented. The one on the left is called a final mem, and the one on the right is either an initial or a medial mem. This means that whenever mem appears at the end of the word, which in Hebrew is on the left side because Hebrew is written from right to left, it will look like what you see on the left side, with a closed square. Whenever mem comes in the middle or in the beginning of a word, it will look like what you see on the right side. Either way, we'll transliterate it as m. there are several other letters with these final letters, and we'll call these Chemnifats letters, which is just another acronym for all the letters that have final letters. So remember, Chemnifats. Next we have the letter Resh. This letter may sound pretty strange, especially in the modern pronunciation, so you may want to listen to it a few extra times to get used to it. Next we have He, which is just the H sound. One thing that's special about the H sound is that when it comes at the end of a syllable, it's usually not pronounced. This is actually true in English as well. We don't really pronounce H at the end of syllables. However, in Hebrew, there are exceptions to this. You can have an H sound at the end of a syllable, but the way you know that the H is actually pronounced at the end of a syllable is when the He has a dot in it, called a mapik. Now let's look at some vowels. As mentioned earlier, vowels are written above and below the consonants, but for the most part, they're written below. First, we have patach. Patach is an ah sound, and it's a single dash written below the letter. Then we have sagol, which is an e sound. Again, it's written below the letter, and it's 3 dots. We have transliterated sagol using the IPA symbol in order to distinguish it from another vowel sound you'll learn later on. So those are the 2 vowel sounds you'll be practicing in this lesson. Finally, because it's easy to confuse some of the letters, we'll show you some letters that look almost identical here so that you can distinguish them. In this case, we have the samech, which is on the left side, and the final mem on the right side. So the left one makes the s sound, and the right one makes the sound. The way you can tell the difference is that the samech is rounder, and the mem is more square. That's it for the first alphabet lesson. In the next lesson, you'll learn some more consonants, some more vowels, and we'll look at the oldest Hebrew inscription ever found.